Hello, it's Fulhamish Podcast, the second show of 2017. My name's Sammy James, and this is your weekly port of call for a sideways look at everything to do with Fulham FC. Now, despite a tube strike that has grounded London to a standstill and a torrential downpour, we've still managed to muster an attendance of 4 in the studio tonight, which is only a tad fewer than were in attendance at the Cardiff City Stadium yesterday. On the show, braving the conditions and the tube strikes, I've got Farrell Monk.
Hello.
Jack Collins.
Hey.
And Ben has fallen foul to the tubes, so we welcome back, as always, pleasure to have you, Dom Betts. How you doing, mate?
Pleasure to be here.
How's your hangover?
It's a bit better, but, you know, I felt a lot worse yesterday morning, I guess.
Those 2 pints got to you this time?
Yeah, those 2 pints massively got to me.
It's a sign of age when the hangovers are getting this long.
Yeah.
So, loads to get through in today's podcast. We'll be looking back at the Cardiff game on Sunday, and we're also going to be discussing all things FA Cup, the magic of the cup in inverted commas. We'll get onto that later. We're also going to be discussing departed Fulham heroes, which makes them sound like they've passed away. They haven't. Just more like transfers that have got us a little bit sad over the years, to people that have gone out and left the club. Tragic transfers.
Tragic departures.
Exactly. And we'll also have all the reaction to Fulham's 4th round draw in the FA Cup. But let's start off with Sunday's performance. A strong display from Slavisa's side, who did more than enough to see off the challenge of this fairly weak Cardiff team, who look in trouble this season. It was a bit like the Ipswich game for me. The lads didn't really seem to need to break out of second gear for me. Dom, you were there on Sunday. What was your evaluation of the 90? What you saw of it?
I mean, it was a very good performance, but I was still frustrated after the second half because Kearney, although he had very good intricate play of the ball, he just wouldn't shoot. And there was plenty of opportunities when I thought he was outside the box where I think he was just trying to do too much. And sometimes I know possibly it was on his right foot, but there was many times where, not just Kearney, but that was what I saw mostly, that he just was trying to sort of pass it into the goal. That's what Arsenal fans talk about a lot. Where sometimes I think he just needed to have a shot from outside the box. But overall, it was a solid performance. And I mean, Cardiff didn't really threaten whatsoever. I mean, they had a free kick in the, I can't remember, I think it was still the first. I think it was when it was 1-1, and then he saved it. And then Ricky Lambert was just standing there when he could have easily run in and tapped it in, and he sort of just stood there and went out for a corner, I think. But overall, yeah, solid performance.
I mean, Jack, our lack of ruthlessness was clearly on display, but we did what we needed and we're into the 4th round, so we can't complain too much.
No, not at all. I love the way that we toy with teams in possession, and we kind of, you know, Ben always says about this thing about smashing through transitions, and it's true in terms of our best chances always come when we draw teams onto us through sort of just keeping the ball and being patient, and in breaking at pace and breaking at speed. And I think that one of our, you know, best things is that we continue to create chances and we are carving out chances. But you know, we're repeating ourselves a bit, and it's a little bit broken record in that we've said this so many times about how many chances we've carved out, and better teams punish us for it. And that's, I suppose, where we need to improve and what we need to look at building on in this transfer window if we're going to go and actually push this, you know, playoff bid through to its conclusion. And I think that it almost sounds like we're going every week, we're brilliant in possession, we play unbelievable football, we carve chances, we tear teams apart, and when it does click, you know, it happens, and we've seen it click occasionally against, you know, Huddersfield and against Reading at home, and those games you have to sort of analyse and look at in comparison to other games where we've completely dominated and then failed to put away those chances, and what's the difference? And I suppose the easy difference is that in those 2 games, Chris Martin was on form, and we had a star striker putting the ball in the back of the net, and it brought everyone else around him into play and into the game, and everyone else sort of grew in confidence and they started shooting, and then the ball starts going in, and it's one of those where when everyone's afraid to shoot, it's almost like, oh, what's going to happen here? What's the next one? If, you know, everyone's afraid to miss almost. So I suppose what it comes down to now is if we can get someone who's happy to stick the ball in the back of the net, then maybe it will inspire everyone around them to, you know, have a go as well.
What I thought, Farrell, was at the weekend, we still created a lot of chances in that game. Maybe not as many chances as we have been in a lot of games, but I felt there was part of Fulham realising it was a cup tie and we didn't need to go for it. But we still created plenty of chances. And we had this debate at the end of last week's podcast, and we said Ross McCormack's not right for this team. He shouldn't be coming back, and we should be looking at other options. And part of that is because he doesn't fit with our system. A lot of it depends around having a big striker. But do we actually need a big striker? We still have carved out plenty of chances in all these games that Chris Martin hasn't played without one. Surely what we actually just need is a finisher, someone that can put the ball in the back of the net, big, small, giant or minuscule.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned last week that he could bag 20 goals for us, not in the full season, but in half a season he could do that. And you're quite right in pointing out that we don't actually need a big striker, although Chris Martin, as a big striker, does have that little bit of movement, have that sort of back-to-goal kind of play about him that does well for us. But as you've seen the last couple of games, that we are creating a lot of chances and dominating teams without a big striker. We're not a team that's going to be getting multitude of crosses into the box and heading in goals and whatnot. We're a team that gets to the byline. We do that little intricate play just outside the box and trying to find an opening there. And, we just need a good ball player. A good ball player and someone who can finish. Ben mentioned it a few weeks ago about the emotionless striker. And Ross McCormack is certainly an emotionless striker. When he has a chance, 9 times out of 10, back of the net, without fail, because he's done it time and time and time again, rather than, a Luco or a Ite or Piazon, who aren't natural goal scorers. They're great footballers and they really are, fit into this team really well. But, when they have a one-on-one chance, do you feel confident when they have it, when they're staring the goalkeeper down his eyes?
Whites of his eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't think that it needs to be a big player. I think what it needs to be is a hold-up player, but I don't necessarily think that. I think it's quite a common misconception that a hold-up player has to be a big player. If there's enough about someone to get the ball to feet, and be able to even just to move with it, run around, draw a defender and play it and then lay it off. That's hold-up play. It's not necessarily standing with your back to goal, chesting the ball down. And much as we've, said that Martin's good at that and that makes the ball stick to him, that's kind of part of his game rather than that necessarily doesn't revolve around him being big, especially because we play the ball so much to feet. It doesn't necessarily have to be, a player that is 6'6" and built like a train. Like, what I'm just saying is that it needs to be someone who's comfortable in possession and is not going to drop deep and not going to drop off that last defender, because we need that person to stretch and make those movements so our players can make the. And Luco does that by, running. And what we've seen of him in that role is he does it by just moving along the byline. And, those chances are still coming. So it's clearly not someone that has to be, built like a brick shithouse, for want of a better phrase. But I don't think McCormack is that player. I really don't. And I don't know if you saw him come on for Villa against Spurs at the weekend, but he looks out of shape. He looks unfit. He didn't look like he was interested. And I just don't think that it will be a happy reunion.
Dom, we didn't have a chance to get your opinion, so it'd be interesting to hear your take on partially the Chris Martin situation / the whole striker debate as a whole. Derby today signed David Nugent, so one wonders whether Derby County actually do want Chris Martin back if they've just gone and spent £2.5 million on a fairly proven striker. What do you think Fulham should be doing? And assuming that Chris Martin isn't going to be playing again, who should Fulham be looking to target?
Well, I don't know specific players, but I think we need 2 strikers, because Arsenal prove you do need a player who is tall and can win you like a goal or header in the last minute of a game. So I think we do need to sign a big striker, because Matt Smith clearly isn't that person. I mean, he's been used the last few years and it hasn't really worked. Apart from scoring that wonder goal against Wigan at home, he hasn't really done much. But you do need a quick number 9 as well, and someone like Naki Wells from Huddersfield. I don't know if he will fit the system that well, but he's clearly got pace about him, so he can get in behind, and he's got a decent finish on him. But like when everyone mentioned McCormack, I think people just looked at his goal record for me and thought, oh, he can clearly score goals, but it was clearly sort of detrimental to the way we played the last 2 years in a way, because he dropped back to number 10 when he was playing number 9, and you can't do that in the system we were playing then and the system we're playing now. So yeah, as he said, you don't need a big striker, but I think it's always nice to have a good one in the squad just for a plan B to come on. But I don't think a massive tall striker is what we need. I mean, just as you said, we need someone who can just put the ball in the back of the net.
And coming back to the Cardiff game, it was good to see how quickly Fulham got back into the game after a fairly fortunate free kick from Anthony Pilkington, which was quite good to not really celebrate, because it literally would not have even got close if it not had cannoned off Lucas Piazon. And 2 good goals, both coming from Fredericks on the right-hand side. He's really growing into this season now, giving left-back after left-back a torrid time. Joe Bennett was the latest victim of the Ryan shuffle on that right-hand side.
Is that what we're calling it? Is
I
that gonna
couldn't
be a
think of-
Sammy, Is that going to be a Sammy trademark?
I literally couldn't think
The
of a better word.
Fredericks shuffle.
Come up with something better, and I'm
No,
willing
I
to
love,
discuss.
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. Sign me up. I'm a massive fan.
Shuffle indicates that he has different moves, and his tricks change, but his move is the same every single time. So maybe it's the Fredericks one card.
Yeah, the one trick pony. But it's a trick that keeps working game after game, Jack.
Yeah, no, agreed. And it's purely that no one can deal with his pace, and over his acceleration over those 2-3 meters is astounding. In fact, I've never seen a player be able to just nip it, not very far. He doesn't need acres of space to be able to beat a man down the right, and his acceleration is almost obscene. And I think he's getting better every game, but I do feel like he fades second half a lot. I don't know if anyone
I've
thinks
noticed
the
that.
same.
Yeah.
I think that he starts to burn out after a little while, and what got me thinking was, I was thinking, is that style of play, the sort of burn and then stop and burn and then stop, is it possible to play that for 90 minutes?
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily a feasible strategy, but obviously we have options there, and especially on the right of an attacking triumvirate on Saturday, I thought he was excellent, and I think maybe we should have pulled him off slightly earlier, and maybe that will go against the fact that he was man of the match. But I really, really did like him, and I think he's a very, very crucial player to the system that Slav's implementing there.
The main thing he's improved is his final ball. Because
Yeah.
last season, I didn't think his final ball was that good whatsoever. But this season, every time he's down the wing, he's going to put a cross in. If we take away maybe the Brighton game, because we just couldn't cross to save our lives in that game anyway. But apart from that, his final ball's improved so much this season. And that's why we're getting so many goals that are coming down that right-hand side.
The one thing from that Brighton game I would point out is that Brighton did something tactically which was very astute, that they tried to stifle that ball inside the fullback to stop Fredericks and Malone getting to the byline, which meant a lot more crosses were coming from deeper, which didn't seem our game, even with Matt Smith in the middle, because we pointed out last week that Duffy was pretty much winning everything in the air that game. But Sammy, you pointed out the weekend that it's amazing to watch Fredericks and absolutely terrorise left backs every week. But you pointed out quite rightly, and it does worry me a bit, that he has a bit of a short shelf life in terms of what is he going to be like in a few years' time when maybe his pace starts to decrease. He's going to have to find different elements of his game, I would say.
But lots of players over the years have lost their pace and managed to change their game. Interestingly, we were just watching the FA Cup draw just now, and Michael Owen is on there, and he's a classic example of a player that couldn't learn how to adapt once their pace left. So I guess that is something that...
Two serious knee injuries as well.
I know, but once the pace was gone...
Poor old Michael Owen, that's ruthless, Sammy. That is one of the most feared strikers in Europe at points, and still knew how to put the ball in the back of the net, even when he...
You can't.
He
Newcastle.
scored a lot of goals for Newcastle before that second...
40 and 80 or something like that?
Yeah, he scored a lot. Before that second knee injury really hit him, he scored a lot of goals for Newcastle, and people forget that when he came back to England, he was prolific.
I'm happy to be proven wrong, but I still believe that once the pace had gone, he wasn't the same player. This was the point I was trying to make, and maybe Ryan might come down the same side. We'll have to wait and see. But for now, he's still got the pace. So maybe
good luck to you, Freds, if you're listening.
Yeah.
We don't want you.
Yeah. You please stay, please.
So the first goal came from your man Jack, StefJo. I got that specially made for you
I'm so happy.
on his 26th birthday.
What a man.
Even
What
a bloodied face couldn't ruin your love, I presume.
No, the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt from the Norse god himself in the middle to level things up.
A lot of people on Twitter were telling us that the Welsh for God is, well, I don't know how to pronounce it, but D-U-W. So I'm going to say Dor, maybe?
Dor.
D-U-W?
That sounds like door, but with like a Welsh accent on it.
Yeah, I'm not going to try. I'll probably sound Indian.
That sounds reasonable. I'm going to go with it.
But another good performance from him. And then the second goal coming from young Ryan Sessegnon on the score sheet against Cardiff again. Good to see him do well. It was a slightly shaky performance, we noted, when he played against Rotherham in patches. I think he did enough. But what did you make of his performance? And again, lots of people are going to be linking him with moves to bigger clubs once again after such an impressive start to his career.
I mean, it helped that Cardiff weren't really trying in the game. I mean, with that whole academy crop that's come up in the last 3 or 4 years, we've pretty much lost every one of the good players. in Pat Roberts, Emerson Hyndman, Moussa Dembele. I know he was a few years younger, but he's in what we started when Chris Coleman was at the club, when we invested a lot of money into the academy. And I'm hoping he's one of the... Because I think he'd probably maybe take out Moussa Dembele, he'd probably be the best player out of all of them. He's shown them the most potential, I guess, because, I mean, he's 16.
Yeah.
People keep forgetting he's 16, but yeah, he was good, especially in the first half. And I mean, him and Fredericks were just terrorising their fullbacks down both flanks, really. But it's just, you got to see what happens when he comes up against a stronger side. But I mean, obviously, our main left back is going to be Scott Malone, who has been great this season. It's just sometimes he, like Fredericks, he disappears in the second half of games. But Sessegnon for a 16-year-old, it was a great performance.
He's very composed, very, very composed. I like him a lot when we're completely in control of games and he doesn't have to defend, which means,
for a defender, that is essential.
Well, that's it. The thing is, like, the early comparisons he was getting at 16 where they were like, oh, here's the next Gareth Bale. And, you look at Gareth Bale starting out as a left back and moving forward and actually finding his feet when he became a left winger. And I don't think Cess is quite, that level. I'm not trying to say they are, but I wouldn't mind seeing Cess, not obviously in a league game, but playing in that left wing role and seeing what he can come up with without putting the, yoke of defensive responsibility on his back. Because I think he's far more assured as a player when he's attacking. And I know that's obviously excellent that your fullbacks bomb on and obviously crucial to the way we play. But we saw the time that Izzy Brown gave him against Rotherham. Izzy Brown, who interestingly signed for Huddersfield on the next 6 months.
Yeah, it's a very good move for them.
It's a very, very clever little move. But you do worry for Rotherham, having just lost their only bright spark. But
I'm not worrying.
Well, yeah, I know, but it must be tough to be a Millers fan right now. So, but it's one of those where I'm not 100% sure how comfortable I am with him playing left back in an important game when we're under the cosh a little bit more. But obviously a brilliant performance and an excellent performance from Cess, and the youngest player ever to score in the FA Cup proper.
It is so easy to, forget that he is still 16 years old, and he'll just mature over the years and years and years, and he'll become a better defender.
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely certain for it.
And another interesting point from Slavisa's lineup, Marcus Bettinelli back in the side. He's a fan's favourite, I think. His passion he showed the club, and I think always the time where he was linked with Chelsea and then signed a new Fulham contract. If he wasn't already fairly well liked by the fans, that certainly endeared him to them. A good performance from him. That save in the first half, I can't remember who it was. Joe Rouse, that's the one. Was another great stop. Do we expect to see him continue his place in the side? I mean, I know a lot of fans have been clamouring for it already with some indifferent performances from David Button, shall we put it? Or do you think just Slav will go back to the routine on Saturday against Barnsley?
I think we just signed a new goalkeeper altogether because, again, Bettinelli's kicking was quite poor during the game. There was a few times where the ball literally just went out of play. So I think we actually just need to get a new goalkeeper who can kick a football, because sometimes Button's kicking is horrific.
Do you think that's realistic in the January transfer window, or do you more see that as something that's coming in the summer?
I don't think we will. I mean, I'd like us to, but I mean, it wasn't bad. It's just like people have asked him to come in because Button's kicking has been bad and distribution, whereas Bettinelli's wasn't exactly any better than Button has been doing all season. I didn't think he played badly though.
No, I thought he did quite well.
Yeah, well, I think you might lambast Button for his distribution and whatnot, but first and foremost, I think he's an excellent goalkeeper. He's a great shot stopper. He knows what he's doing. He's fairly experienced now, and he knows the team. We're doing well with him in the team. It's no coincidence. He does make some top saves here and there, and I wouldn't say when you look at goalkeeping first and foremost, both Button and Bettinelli are good all-round goalkeepers. You can't necessarily say just because their kicking is not to the standard that you would expect means that they should be dropped to the goalkeeper.
I guess, would you argue that they're both almost equal level, and also all their attributes that they're good and bad at happen to marry up? So whoever you pick, it doesn't make too much difference.
I think the only thing you can possibly look at is getting someone in like Villa have done, getting Sam Johnston in on loan from Man United. I think that's a very, very astute signing there from Steve Bruce, and I think that's the only way we'd bring in a keeper at this stage of the season. I think it'd be a 6-month loan from a top club. But if you look at the way that Slav's trying to play and try and play football out for the back, there's always going to be mistakes. You look at, Pep's brought in Claudio Bravo and to do that and make that kind of football work in England, and it's not gone as smoothly as you might expect with a keeper who's so experienced at playing the ball out from the back. And I think that there's not going to be a keeper. Well, there obviously will be keepers that are able to perform that role, but are they going to be up to this job in terms of commanding their area and shot stopping? Probably not in terms of trying to attract someone at this level at this point. So I think it's a bit of make, do and mend rather than, change everything up completely, unless we can find someone who's recovering from injury or something, coming back on a loan, and we get an excellent deal on a 6-month loan or something. I don't see it materialising.
You can't necessarily say that Button would be used to playing this style of play when he was at Brentford, for sure. So it's going to take some time, especially for a goalkeeper, to get used to this style of football, especially sort of one-two touch passes, really. Yeah. So, and especially for someone who, how old is he? 26, 27?
27, yeah.
So it's going to, old habits die hard. It's easy to train a winger to play as a striker or vice versa, but training a goalkeeper to play one-two touch football is going to be very difficult. It might take a year or two.
I mean, you say that. We've never really had a great history of goalkeepers in kicking and distribution, for me anyway, really.
Yeah, you're right.
Stems all the way back to Van der Sar, in my opinion.
Yeah, Van der Sar could play up front.
Yeah. I mean,
so good.
I mean, Stecklenburg could kick a football, but he couldn't do anything else. I mean, that was one of the only good points about him. I mean, Stockdale's distribution when he played, I thought was shocking at times.
And I saw against Brighton, he had some quite
poor but that's what an actual keeper who could kick a football who played every week would be Van der Sar. So, mate, I'm probably just being overcritical about it.
Yeah, maybe there's a lack of them in the world.
Yeah.
Rather than...
Considering how many times our goalkeepers have to touch the ball, it's going to get exposed sooner or later. We probably don't even focus on the times.
Even Van der Sar got exposed, if you remember.
Jose Antonio Reyes.
And then he did the same thing 2 years later to Jeremy Aladiadier, but he got away with it because the ball bounced off Aladier, went wide, and hit the post and went wide.
Lovely pronunciation.
The story of Ali Adier's career, that is, bouncing off the bar off his face.
And we saw over the weekend a couple of our rivals, Sheffield Wednesday and Reading, with Wildsmith and Al Habsi respectively, both making fairly big mistakes. So clearly our rivals aren't perfect either.
And the Cardiff keeper at the weekend as well. He gifted the ball to
Johansson. But there was I think the Wildsmith one's completely justified from the fact that Wildsmith wore number 2 on his back. It's literally the worst thing I've ever seen. It's like I couldn't believe it. And they was reading out what was going on. They were like, "Oh, and it's Sheffield Wednesday's number 2 in goal today, Wildsmith." And I was like, and they were like, and it's actually their number 2 because that's the shirt he's chosen to wear. I was like, what is this monstrosity? No.
Against modern
football. They had a right back wearing 9 and a keeper wearing 2. I was like, this has just got to go.
For someone so young.
Bruno Kone used to wear number 2 for Everton and Wigan.
Yeah, go.
I was like, what's you doing?
Gone.
That's not allowed.
Clint Dempsey wore number 2, didn't he?
Gone.
At Spurs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he did. Next up at the Cottage then, we're back in league action against Barnsley. They're a couple of points above us in the table and unbeaten in 4. However, I imagine we'll still be quite strong favourites as the bookies will look at it. But we'll need to keep an eye out on Sam Winnell, who was voted December Player of the Month, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, good player, and he scored a lot of goals. Yeah. I think that the key to stopping Barnsley, however, lies in the heart of their midfield and the beating heart of Barnsley FC, Conor Hourihane, who is responsible for pretty much the creation of all of these goals. And I think if you ask any Barnsley fan who their soul and centre is, everything comes through Hourihane. You shut him down, you shut down Barnsley, and it was no sort of surprise that when he was out injured, Barnsley went on a terrible run of form, and when he came back, they started playing again and they started scoring again. And I think that there's a player I would love to sign. He's sort of an all-round midfielder with an unbelievable delivery from a set piece and can take a penalty.
I listened to a podcast, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, it's called Not the Top 20. It's a podcast all about the Football League. Thoroughly recommend it. The guys that run it are very knowledgeable about a huge breadth of football. It's very impressive to hear. Yeah. And I think they said Conor Hourihane, I don't think they said he was their player of the season in the Championship, but certainly their upcoming star or most surprising player of the season. They were raving about him and pretty much said in no uncertain terms, there's no way he will be at Oakwell next season.
Yeah, he's just got a couple of international, call-ups as well. He hasn't played yet, but for the Republic. So he's one very much on the radar of big things, I think. And he's still quite young. He's Barnsley's captain and has been since, and sort of kind of masterminded their rise through League One last year. So I think that's, as simple as it gets. You shut down Hurahan. And if K-Mac can stop him playing, then that's a game we should be looking to win.
Big game though, Dom, because we really need to start putting a run of wins together. We've kind of had this indifferent form. It's not been helped that we keep finding ourselves playing some of the top teams in the league, but we've kind of got this easier run of games now. But also, and more important, because we have got a long spell of away games after this, with the Blackburn game going to be postponed because of the FA Cup tie as well. So really, really quite a pivotal game for Fulham.
Yeah, it is. And I looked at it, I think maybe 2 weeks ago after the Brighton game, that before the Reading game obviously got rescheduled to about 2 weeks' time, up till Newcastle away, there isn't a reason why if you look at the game on an individual basis, why we shouldn't be winning every game. I know we won't win every single game because it's Fulham and we don't do that. But if you don't look at it a run, but just look at each game individually, we should be winning or at least be getting a draw. Like, I don't see the point, or can't see us losing really into Newcastle. I don't think we should. There's not really a game where maybe Reading away, but we beat them 5-0 at Craven Cottage. So
we said it a few weeks ago how we seem to always be hitting form when we play the top teams, and then when we're on low on form, we were playing all the teams in the bottom half of the table. So hopefully we can carry on this good form and not slide. The only thing I would say is that any injuries that might pop up or anything like that, because we played a strong side at the weekend and they absolutely dominated, a championship team. Let's not forget they'll be competitive, and you can only sort of point out that they're all professionals, Cardiff, and they probably tried to go all out for it, but they couldn't live with us.
It comes back to the do we need a striker debate. Interesting. I'd be interested to hear, with Nugent now gone to Derby and the kind of Martin situation seeming in no real way of resolving itself, who would be your first choice replacement now?
With Chris
with
Martins.
Nugent off the table, because that would have been my sort of go-to guy. I would have liked to see Nugent in here, someone with pedigree at this level. And
first choice, I'd have quite liked Scott Hogan, but I know
he's off the table because he's about to sign for West Ham, I believe.
Yeah,
but I think he would have been an amazing.
Yeah, breaking news on the Fulhamish podcast.
I think he would have been an amazing signing and possibly just what we needed. But obviously, I know that's difficult. Behind that, I agree with Dom. Nahki Wells, I think, is an excellent striker. Seems unsettled at Huddersfield. Wants to move on to bigger and better things, and I think he'd be a great asset to us.
Michael Owen, tempt him out.
Well, he's lost the pace, hasn't he?
He knows what it is, though. Farrell?
Sorry?
Who would you think?
I don't know, to be honest.
But to be fair, if you look at Derby, there's Vidra, who's even lower down pecking order now. I don't think he's that good, but he was so good under Jokanovic when he was at Watford. So maybe Jokanovic can bring the best out of him, because he didn't exactly have the best scoring record for Reading last season.
I don't think Derby are going to sell us anyone, is the thing.
No.
I don't think the relationship between Jokanovic and McLaren.
That's another point.
And we'll get him in on loan for 24 months.
Because he was like Pearson signing, wasn't he, in the summer? So, and obviously now that McLaren's come in, he clearly doesn't. He's maybe fourth in the pecking order now.
Yeah. Thoughts on Bamford?
I wouldn't certainly turn away Bamford. I don't know a lot about him. Doesn't seem to be cutting at the Premier League level, but his record in the Championship is very acceptable.
I was having a little stalk through his sort of playing partners and history, and he's obviously played with Piazon and Callas at Chelsea, and has a really good relationship with Ryan Fredericks, which means that I think that there was a conversation on Twitter last year with him, Fredericks, and Kearney and co, and all sort of in with each other. So perhaps that kind of chemistry that's already there might work.
And he gets to stay in London too.
Yeah,
and he's got his best mate Ryan Tunnicliffe.
Yeah. I still think they're actually mates. I'm fully convinced they're definitely friends.
One day we will get to the bottom of that entire.
I'd be really upset if Tunners leaves in this transfer.
That would be typical,
very
wouldn't
upset.
it?
You never know what they're looking at. They could be looking at in the continent and pick up an Aite sort of figure, someone that's out of the blue.
Yeah.
You probably got to have your trust, considering Jokanovic's transfer record so far, that they're working hard to bring in the right person, not just anyone.
Yeah, fair enough.
On to the magic of the cup then. Back to the debate. Kind of crops up yearly. And it's this weird thing that I think we only have in Britain. In fact, it'd be interesting to get Ben's take on this if this is a debate that happens in Spain or maybe in the continent. There's this thing about the magic of the FA Cup, and there's this word that seems to be attached to it. And every year, everyone seems to debate whether the FA Cup still is magic, but it seems to be particularly intense this year, and it's slightly centred in a way around the Cardiff Fulham game. I think the mixture of regions this year, has been very poor TV selections, a lack of upsets, kind of second string sides and low attendances. And it was a very low attendance at the Cardiff City Stadium yesterday, just over 5,000 of that, nearly 1,000 of that was Fulham fans. So I just kind of want to hear from you guys. Do you still get excited for the FA Cup, or has the romance completely gone?
I still love the tournament. I don't see any reason not to. I think any reason this pops up is because there's just stupid kickoff times throughout the whole weekend. You have games on like the Friday night, then you have Saturday lunchtime, Saturday evening, Sunday morning, then Sunday afternoon, then Sunday evening. There's Leeds playing Cambridge tonight. So I think it's still there. I think if every game just kicked off at Saturday 3 p.m, everyone would be talking about how it's still a great tournament. But I think it's just the TV organised changing games to ridiculous kickoff.
If I had nothing to do for a weekend, I would sit there Friday night, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon watching every single game. That's definitely what I would do.
But no one does. That's
no one does,
yeah.
So
that's it. It's a combination of things. So what you said about, poor TV selections and lack of upsets and all these kind of dragged off kick-up times. But unless you do something drastic, it's going to continue to be that. And, what like what Dom said in terms of making all of them 3 p.m. Saturday kickoffs, or making some sort of rule about how many first-team players you have to select in the Cup. And unless you do that, it's going to continue to be the same, because realistically, in the Premier League, the money's so important now that no team is going to take the Cup that seriously against lower league opposition until it gets to the latter stages, until you're kind of in with a shot.
Yeah.
But why would you? As in, if you're Liverpool, and I saw a big debate on Twitter about this, because all these Argyle fans celebrating, the 0-0 and bringing them back to home park. And these Liverpool fans saying, why are you, coming up playing Liverpool under 23s and parking the bus, and you're celebrating as if you've won the Cup? And one, that doesn't really appreciate the fact that obviously the draw back at Argyle is going to bring in the club a massive amount of revenue that you just don't see outside the Premier League. And, you wouldn't hit you if you're a Premier League club, it doesn't matter. But obviously for a lower league club, it's so important. But also, the Argyle fans were playing, well, we didn't choose who you played. You get to pick your starting 11. We can only play what we're given to play against. And so if, whether you've played 11 under 19s or your full strength 11, the most we can do is play them and celebrate how we feel. And we're obviously three tiers below you. We're going to celebrate those kind of draws. So unless there's some sort of, rule put in on terms of players, even upsets don't really feel like upsets that much. You see that Millwall-Bournemouth game and you're like, oh, Millwall beat Bournemouth 3-0, but you actually look at the starting 11 for Bournemouth and 1-2 maybe played in the game against Arsenal. What can you do? And then Bournemouth fans will go, oh, well, our second string 11 lost to Millwall. Okay.
Yeah. The one thing that I would certainly change if I was to sort of brighten up the FA Cup would make it a Champions League place, the winner. I know it's not going to happen, but that's just one thing that I would certainly change. I think Neil Warnock actually pointed out the weekend, because he certainly wasn't up for it. So he was like, if it was a Champions League spot, then everyone's going to be absolutely gunning for it, because it actually comes back to what you're saying about the Premier League and the money, because the money in the Champions League is absolutely horrendous in comparison to the money you get for the Europa League.
Yeah.
And you would see a lot more of the stronger sides coming out, certainly in the Premier League, and absolutely gunning for the win.
Yeah.
But at the moment, I still think the magic of the Cup is there. I certainly get a buzz every year from it. I still get that buzz in the third round draw, the fourth round draw, and then not in the fifth round because Fulham aren't in it.
Don't get me wrong, I completely agree with you. I like the Cup.
Yeah.
But also, at this stage of the season, if you were going to see Fulham in a Wembley final, what would you rather it be?
Sorry, say that again?
If you were going to see Fulham in a Wembley final, would you rather it was the FA Cup final or the playoff final right now?
FA Cup.
FA Cup.
Really?
Yeah, because I like the Championship. It's great.
Yeah, I also like the Championship, but at this stage, I think that we're in a position this season which we haven't been in for a while, and also if we don't, make the playoffs this season, I can see us losing that core group of players who've done so well, and it's a case of rebuilding from the start again. And obviously, like,
another Europa League run next year.
Fine, I concede, and I concede to higher powers.
So obviously a lot was made of the 11:30 kickoff time in Cardiff on a Sunday, which is it's an awful time to play football. Football should never be kicking off in the morning.
No, never.
I mean, like 12:30.
Apart from Sunday mornings.
Apart from maybe Sunday League down at Barnell Sports Trust. But, I mean, a lot was made about the attendance from Cardiff, but I still believe if that was at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, it wouldn't have been much more. It wasn't that 15,000 Cardiff fans had a boycott.
I made the point on Twitter. I said it was a ridiculously inconvenient kickoff time. And I was talking about Fulham fans. Like, how many extra Fulham fans, if it was Saturday 3 p.m, would have gone? We've got the same fixture next month in the league, which I reckon will bring over 1,000 to. But I don't think it really affected. It would have affected either attendance that much if it was Saturday 3 p.m. I don't think the game was interesting that many people, just because it's the same team in your division and with the same fixtures next month.
Yeah, it's a boring tie.
And Cardiff seem to have this animosity at the moment with the club and the ownership. I think there's a wider debate there, and it's not generally against the TV, but it was quite rich of people like Gary Lineker and the BBC in general. I think there was, I watched the BBC News last night and it said, Fulham beat Cardiff by 2-1. Not that many of their fans were there to see it. And it was like, you guys were the ones that moved the kickoff time.
Exactly. One train before.
And that was half an hour late.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone who was on that train missed the first 2 goals in the game.
Yeah. I think those people just they're so far removed from normal football supporters now, they just don't understand what it is like anymore.
I mean, it's one of those games where I can say I was there the 11:30am third round tie against Cardiff City. But, I mean, yeah, I think that, everyone was like saying, I don't see the issue here. You can get that train that gets in 11. I was like, it's Great Western. It's going to be late.
And also, like, half an hour is not a long time to get from
it's
Cardiff
at least
Central.
a 20 half an hour minute walk anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Unless you get a cab. But, yeah, you've got to walk past Millennium Stadium all the way down, turn left at the bridge, and then you've got to get it over to the away end, which is even further from when you first get to the stadium.
You could have all shared a taxi. It was only 10.
But I think Fulham doing the free coaches and all the fans who live near Craven Cottage or Motspur Park who wanted to go did go. It was just I think the main issue was for people who maybe Fulham fans who aren't in London. Obviously, they wouldn't be able to get to the free coach.
Yeah, absolutely.
For, there's 6 a.m. or whenever it left.
There are certainly a significant proportion of, in inverted commas, expat Fulham Londoners, if you know what I mean, that live quite across the country. They would have never been able to get there.
No, it was I think it was poorly thought out and a weird TV agreement that BBC Wales can show Welsh teams, and suddenly everyone was becoming an expert in Freeview numbers 900 to 999. It was a very bizarre. I was there with my dad on Sunday morning, telling him how to tune his iPlayer so that he can get Wales. It was like I was the TV man on the end of the receiver.
I mean, I always knew the game was going to get moved because last year Cardiff and Swansea were both on TV, and Newport got knocked out by Plymouth. I don't think Wrexham were in it, so. Because there's S4C, which is the Welsh channel, which like, all the commentary and presenting stuff I think is in Welsh. And then obviously there's BBC Wales, and they always get like a game on each. So I just knew it was going to be moved.
Let's move on to our next topic, which was brought up by Farrell in the week. Nicely spotted, Farrell. And was it Wednesday?
Yeah,
Wednesday, Thursday.
The reason why it came, I thought of it, is it came up on my time hop because I put something like, "Oh, Lewis Bermorte's leaving." Whatever crap I was putting 10 years ago on Facebook, for God's sake.
Those days when you used to put your entire life story on Facebook.
It wasn't obviously very exciting if that was like the biggest thing going on in my life at the moment.
So it was 10 years to the day on Thursday that Louis Boamorte, a cult hero, left Fulham. So we asked the question on Twitter, which players, when they left, upset you the most? And we had a brilliant reaction to this, actually. The first one that came in my mind when I saw that, and a lot of people said this on Twitter. Let me find a couple of people that said it. Drew Heatley is one of the first ones I can see, but I know there was 2 or 3 more. Was Rufus Brevitt going to West Ham? I significantly remember it because it was January the 31st, which is my birthday.
Oh.
And a horrible birthday present was...
Yeah, really not very nice.
My hero Rufus moving. He seemed to come out of nowhere, him moving to West Ham. Are there any others that stood out for you when this question was raised?
Tom Osborne tweeted in with Steve Malbronk.
Yeah, that was
a heartbreaker.
And I don't know everyone else, but I was really sad when Bullard left.
Who?
Jimmy Bullard. So I don't know
I
why.
was very, very sad when Jimmy Bullard left.
I was because he was like my favourite player, and then he just went to Hull, and then I don't know why he went to Hull.
Yeah,
but
I get upset when I don't mind if a player. I mean, I get upset if a player leaves that I really like, but I don't mind. I can see them leaving. That if they go to like a bigger club in inverted commas,
like Dempsey and Dembele, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I was really upset when Moussa Dembele left and went to Spurs because you kind of understood it. I actually think he undersold himself, if anything. But you know, when a player leaves and does what it appears like a sideways or backwards move, like Bullard, you kind of go, "What are you doing?
Hey, what are you up to?
What are you doing?" And then this is why I was so upset about Luis Boamorte leaving, because why would he leave Fulham for a club that was on the verge of relegation at the time?
Yeah, I suppose.
Unless the club decided, well,
that was it. Yeah.
like a lot of these moves. Actually, one thing they've got in common is actually they didn't do any better at the clubs they moved to. I think nearly everyone we've mentioned here, bar Moussa
He's somehow
Dembele
still
and
playing
Malbronk.
professional football, but
Yeah, 37, still playing in Ligue 1.
There's a couple of the same kind of things. Luca Laley said that Dembele and Dempsey, and they're the ones that seem to crop up most frequently. I remember being absolutely devastated when Dempsey left, and then even more devastated when he scored that Spurs goal to go 2-2 against Arsenal, and he beat the badge. And I couldn't stand it. I was like, I turned the telly off. I walked off. I was like, nah, I don't like that at all. Saha obviously was a big one that we got a lot of responses from. I really liked Simon Allinson's Sean Davis 100%, because that was a heartbreaker when Sean Davis left. That was a big move at the time. He went to Spurs as well.
just any Fulham player went to Tottenham.
Yeah.
That was actually a response. Someone said.
We could actually probably build a Fulham 11 of players that have gone from Fulham to Spurs.
Yeah, no. Dave Taylor was gutted when we sold Kieran Fry. I was very, very upset about that at the time, because I thought that Kieran Fry was on the verge of being something unbelievably special, and I feel exactly the same about Pat Roberts. I was absolutely devastated when Pat Roberts left, although I agree with taking the money at that point, and I agree with the transfer.
Do you know who I was absolutely fuming about? Chris Smalling.
Yeah,
that really worked me up. And I remember being with a few mates, and they went, "Oh my God, what a deal! 11 million for someone that hasn't played." I said, "He's going to be in the England team, and we've got about 10 million. This is England. This is going to be an England centre back for the next 15 years. We just got 10 million. It is a dreadful deal." They were like, "Yeah, but he's only played one game and he scored an own goal." I was like, "Yeah, not everyone's debut is brilliant. I imagine half the greatest centre backs in the world, their debut wasn't the best."
In hindsight, quite a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, in hindsight.
We must have paid for like a,
imagine how many players we got through the academy on the back of that money.
Yeah.
On the back of that money. But yeah, no, it was, I remember that was it. Saha, Dempsey and Roberts, for me, they were the three that really hit me very, very hard.
And you've got obviously just players in Europa League 1, like, I think Chris Curtis said Zoltan Gira.
Yeah.
John Gallagher said Damien Duff.
John Gallagher said Damien Duff because John Gallagher is an Irishman.
How could you tell?
No, but like John, I know John. And it was one of those where I was like, in fact, I think his response was something like, "Sure, your man Damien Duff was good." Like,
the one that really upset me was McBride, because we definitely could have got another couple of years out of him, but he decided to move back to America. I feel like the club could have done a lot more to try and keep him, and we did actually try and get him back in the January afterwards as well, and then. The American club, Chicago Fire, pulled the plug on it last minute, apparently. There was just to bring in an older one. This guy doesn't have a Twitter name, apparently, but it's LBNO11FFC.
Yeah.
And he was Gordon Davis, either when he went just a couple of miles down the road to Chelsea, which I'd imagine, I mean, I wasn't... I probably have no memory of that time at all.
Do you not?
Oh, come on, Farrell, don't lie to us.
But I'd imagine that would really, really work a lot of people up, because he was a firm favourite at the time. And to go to, Chelsea down the road, I think that's what he put it as.
But there was definitely this Fulham Chelsea sort of hostility, which I feel is still only from our end, has only really come into the forefront in the last sort of 15, 20 years. because there was definitely a period, and I remember talking about it with my my granddad and things, that people used to go to Fulham one week and then Chelsea the next, and it was kind of just one of those ones where you'd just go to both teams, whichever team was at home.
Yeah.
So I mean, I suppose that I don't know quite when either the engine did decide to pack sticks and leave, but I'm not sure how hostile the environment was between the two teams at that time. LB number 11 FFC, if you've got a response to that, please let me know.
It was interesting. I was listening to the Football Ramble.
Next door, the lads.
Who record their podcast next door. If you listen to the Football Ramble, they literally do it in the next studio. I know Pete is a good guy. They had an interesting debate. They came on to Fulham, they discussed the Fulham-Brighton game, and they were actually really, really positive about Fulham's display against Brighton, and said they were one of the best teams to watch in, if not the league, in the country potentially this season. They were really, really impressed. But they came on to the Fulham-Chelsea rivalry, and they came onto it because Piazon is on loan from Chelsea, and they said, what other rivalry in football, because we've had a lot of players from Chelsea down the years. You think back like Gael Kakuta, Wayne Bridge.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne Bridge was the one that was really puzzling, because at the time I thought, it's a massive rivalry between Fulham and Chelsea, but I was obviously
Bjarni
deluded.
Goldbeck came permanently.
Yeah.
What other rivals?
What player?
Yeah, great player.
What player?
What other rivals loan players to their...
Probably Liverpool and Everton, I imagine.
Well,
They're
do
quite
they?
They've got quite a friendly demeanour between those two.
I can't imagine Liverpool giving an Everton player on loan. I just thought it was an interesting point. And they said,
in fairness, Chelsea loan out players to everyone. So I
Yeah,
just don't
I know,
know
they do.
exempt from.
Piazon hasn't even made a professional appearance for Chelsea.
Well, he looks like he might be signing for us for around £4 million.
Yeah, £4 million, that's what was on Twitter
I'll
today.
take that.
Good business?
Yeah, good bit of business. I like Piazza. He's growing as well. He's growing into it. He looks more confident in the... No, not in
He's
the...
going through a growth spurt.
No, that's something he's definitely not doing.
Yeah,
shouts out to the small men.
I'm hoping for that soon.
Yeah,
though.
me too. But he's every time he plays, he seems to look a little bit more confident on the ball. He looks more direct these days. And, I was a bit worried when Aite left, but Piazon seems to be stepping into the breach in a serious way. So fair play to him. I also like him a lot. He makes me smile. He makes me happy.
Sometimes, Jack. Just sometimes.
Oh, no.
Right, well, we're coming towards the end of the podcast. So we're now into the fourth round of the FA Cup, courtesy of that victory against Cardiff yesterday. Always exciting. We talk about the magic of the FA Cup. There is always magic watching a cup draw. I think a true... I mean, I sounded very Alan Partridge then, but something about a cup draw that just gets a football fan just excited. It's the unpredictability, the unknown. Who are you going to play? Is it going to be a good team, a bad team? So we actually watched the cup draw, which happened before this podcast. Dom hadn't made it yet because he was fighting bus drivers at London Waterloo, trying to make his way up here.
Eventually.
This is what happened when Fulham were pulled out of the hat. Wrong one.
Gotta leave that one in.
Oh, for God's sake. This is what happened. Yeah, it's
home
Fulham.
draw. Right. City, Bolton, Palace,
Borough.
Hull. Yes.
Hull.
Oh, the glamour tie of the round.
Oh, what a boring draw.
so
We we'll beat the Cardiff attendance.
Oh, goodness me.
That's so boring.
So, yeah, it's Hull City on the 28th and 29th of January that weekend. You can't imagine the TV companies are going to be clamouring for it unless there's some unique deal with BBC Humberside that we're unaware of. But Fulham versus Hull. But a winnable game, albeit a very dull draw against Hull. Excuse the pun. But a very winnable game. Bottom of the Premier League. Are they bottom? They're certainly very near the bottom.
You'd like to think that... I remember in our promotion season, actually, where we got Derby County in the FA Cup and we beat them, and they were languishing towards the bottom of the Premier League and we were top of the Championship. I know we're not quite at those lofty heights, but we put away Premiership opposition that year, and a lot of the football we've been playing has been compared to that, to Ghana era. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when it comes up against a Premier League side. And yeah, I think we can win that game.
The year we got promoted from Division 2, we beat Aston Villa away, and they were top of the league. They were top of the Premier League at the time. And Birmingham fan Simon Morgan scoring the second of the two goals.
Dom, would have your reaction been similar if you weren't stuck on a bus?
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, great, brilliant, can't wait. But I was expecting a rubbish draw because we never really get good draws. I mean, obviously there was like Kettering away.
That was good.
Don't know how many years ago that was now, but Like, yeah, we never get a good draw.
Accrington Stanley stands out as one that was quite a good one, maybe 6 or 7
one
years
that always
ago.
gets mentioned just because I've got a lot of family there is when, like, I don't know how many, it was years ago when they got Ashford Town in the FA Cup, and I know a lot of Fulham fans who went to it, and I know a lot of Ashford Town fans who went to the game, and then anything that gets brought up a lot by Fulham fans is the absolute disgrace of the pitch that they were playing on at Ashford Town. But yeah, we literally just never get a good cup draw.
Yeah.
Ever.
Maybe next round.
Yeah, but it's certainly a winnable game. The only thing is that we'll get a much tougher game next time round if we do get through. The only thing is that Hull will probably field their first team because they don't really have a second team.
Do they have any players yet?
No,
They still don't have any
I mean,
players.
they're
do
living
they?
off Robert Snodgrass.
Snodgrass, what a player. He might sign for someone you'd think maybe this window. Apparently West Ham are trying to buy him as well.
But they I don't understand what they do. They bid like $3 million for like a team whose final relegation battle's best player.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't understand sometimes what they do at West Ham, but we don't really be talking about West Ham because stole by Morte, didn't they?
And Brevitt.
Yeah, and Rufus Brevitt.
As a point of interest, I posted a tweet 13 minutes ago now on Fulhamish saying, point of interest, Fulham fans, would you rather get to the FA Cup final or the playoff final this year?
Did you do a poll?
Yeah, I did a poll. 29% for the FA Cup final and 71% for the playoff final, so I feel a bit more justified. There's a couple of excellent
Are
responses.
you talking about this season?
Yeah.
Because I feel like... Yeah,
No, I wrote this year.
Oh, this year.
I wrote
okay.
this year. Some good responses. Pete Salino says, I'm tempted to say the FA Cup final because we're about to sign a top-notch striker and finish second in the league. Hashtag keeping the dream alive.
Like your
Excellent.
style, Pete.
Yep.
George, Big George, shouts out Big George Roster, who said both. Keeping it
Secret
simple.
option C.
Secret option, yeah.
World Cup final.
Harry Taylor says, by far the FA Cup final would be amazing for a championship team to get that far and would be our first major trophy. And Alex said, think the odds of us getting to an FA Cup final are slim to none, whereas promotion is far more likely. So there you go, Fulham fans. Keep voting on that, and we'll probably never mention it again, actually.
Good job, Secretary Jack. Now, on to your next job.
Yeah.
What is the title of today's podcast,
You've
please?
nailed it earlier on today, Sammy. This podcast is going to be known as the Fredericks Shuffle.
The Fredericks Shuffle it is. Well, chaps, thank you very much once again for being on today's podcast. Farrell, Dom and Jack.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Please keep sharing the podcast as you have been in your droves. Please keep rating us on iTunes. Share the love about this podcast. We've been given an influx of new followers on Twitter, so I'm hoping that there might be 1 or 2 people listening to this podcast for the first time. So if that is the case, make sure you also subscribe on iTunes, Pocket Casts, wherever you listen to this podcast.
And thank you for tuning in.
As always, we'll be back next Monday discussing the Barnsley game, big game at the Cottage. I hope you can make it down. If not, listen to us for all the reaction next Monday. We'll see you later, chaps.
Bye-bye.
Right, if we can get home.
And now is the long struggle in the tube strike.